On the 7th of November 2024, a video was uploaded to the Instagram account You Hit Metal 17 Times Every Day titled The Final Act. This 8-minute long video was the final piece of the story in this multi-chapter analog horror series that had been in production for the past 11 months. If you haven't seen my previous 2 videos following this topic, then make sure to do so before continuing. For those who are familiar, however, let's begin. In the previous videos, we followed Mikaeli, Sasha, and Joe. Mikaeli is the protagonist of the series, with the first chapter revolving around his attempt and eventual success of escaping a simulation that he had been placed into against his will. Despite most of the audience rooting for Mikaeli, once he escapes the virtual world, we discover that he is really Michael Lee, CEO of tech company Vale Industries, and the device used to transport people into these simulated versions of life was created by himself with the help of employees Samantha Pemford and Chris Shovlin. It is theorized that Michael was forced to become a victim of his own creation as a form of protest for the countless allegations of employee abuse that were made against him and rumors of illegal experimentation. We see later on that Michael had been exploiting his newfound power by forcing test subject Sasha Wong to remain trapped inside of a simulated version of a game show for several months longer than he was promised. Sasha's sudden disappearance had worried his roommate Joe, who had made it his mission to find his missing friend, tracking down Vale headquarters where he is caught by a guard and placed into a cell for multiple days. Here he is able to communicate with Sasha through a TV he was given for entertainment, and working together, the two create an escape plan that will theoretically save both of them. And that leads us to where we are now, day 341, the dawn of the final act. The final day begins with a series of loose clips displaying the aftermath of the Neridian outbreak. This compilation of clips show mass public panic, interviews, and news reports, with one reporter explaining that the FBI are uncertain if the Neridian virus is actually alive, though their uncertainty is nowhere to be seen in the following message. Neridian is engaged in hostile activity with humanity. It must be killed. And during a tape glitch, the phrase "it must be killed" is replaced with "it must be worshipped." Note: an infected agent has reportedly been tampering with case files. Camera dates in recent files should show February rather than January 1992. Here we have finally received confirmation as to why these cryptic messages have been appearing in case files. An FBI agent who had access to the tapes had been tampering with them, hoping to spread the word of Neridian, portraying it as a good thing as they had been infected. This includes older cryptic messages such as, "They tried to make it leave me, but I wanted it to stay." I previously believed that this message was related to Sasha. However, now knowing that it was typed by an infected FBI agent, we can confidently say that this message is referring to Neridian. It appears that there was an attempt to treat this infected agent, but the person in question refused surgery, likely because the infection had spread so much that they began to be controlled by the virus, manipulated into believing Neridian should be loved and adored by society, even going as far as to say that we should worship it. It's no surprise that people are rallying in the streets and fleeing from a potentially life-threatening disease. We then cut to an interview between Michael Lee and a news reporter, with the ticker displayed reading, "Interview with Michael Lee, man responsible for unleashing mysterious entity." During this interview, we hear Michael explain that he has a plan in place to control and take down the Neridian virus, though his plan involves sacrificing human life. The reporter criticizes him for his malicious methods of control, to which Michael begins the first musical number of this chapter. Bad Boy Beat discusses topics of power, money, and manipulation. Through the lyrics, we learn that Michael Lee's parents died when he was very young, and that he became extremely wealthy through the inheritance of their possessions and wealth. In his words, he got to the top fast because of his extremely fortunate position, and that life is a game, gotta win. Michael sees wealth as the most important thing in life, making his immoral behaviors within his business much more understandable. He doesn't see Vale as a passion project that went big, he sees it as a money farm, doing whatever is necessary to become a richer and more successful person through the labor of others. And when things don't go right for him, he gets angry and violent. Take his phone call with Linda, for example. Michael was terrified at the idea of losing money that he became very threatening towards one of his employees, with Linda being very vocal about how much she dislikes her boss for treating her and others in this way. It makes sense why he abuses his power and employees, to inject fear into his workers, forcing them to work faster and harder, terrified of what will happen if they don't obey to his command. It's also no surprise that Vale is a tech company. It's a constantly evolving market that will return bigger and bigger profits, evolving into the modern day as long as the business is successful, especially in 1992. They would have been the only company at the time to create working virtual reality simulation that requires surgery for functionality that is intended to be used by a wide audience, 24 years before the founding of Neuralink. That's not to say that the product would have performed well overall, but Michael Lee did certainly tap into the market really early, and if successful, it would have made him billions. Once the song ends, we see security camera footage of Vault 19, the area in which Joe is being held captive. Through the gate, we can see him flicking through the magazine he was given, with the timestamp displaying 11:08. At the end of the previous chapter, Sasha tells Joe that in 5 hours there will be a gap in the guard's movements, allowing Joe to make his move. That conversation occurred at 6:22 AM, 4 hours and 46 minutes before the current time, meaning that soon enough, the two will be able to attempt their escape. Whilst waiting around, a phone call is made between two Vale employees. The two discuss the current situation, explaining that a plan has been made to deal with the Neridian outbreak, that plan being a Eudorate ritual. Despite not knowing what Eudorate is, we are told that for it to work, it requires a human subject. Employee 2 then asks Employee 1 if they have any detainees at the facility, to which Employee 1 confirms that a human subject is available to sacrifice for the ritual. The only person we know that has been imprisoned within the Vale building is Joe, meaning that the two employees were likely talking about him. And being completely unaware that this phone call took place, Joe and Sasha begin their escape attempt at 11:34, 5 hours and 12 minutes after the supposed gap in the guard's movement was first mentioned. Sasha gives Joe the directions to the room in which his body is being stored and asks him to go there and unplug him from the machine, opening the gate to his cell and telling him to hurry. And despite Joe following his instructions perfectly, Sasha notices that something is wrong with the movement. A guard has begun walking towards Joe, likely having been told to capture him to use for the ritual, and Sasha begins to panic.
No, shit. This is not right. Sasha? This is not the normal movement. Fuck. Joe, turn around. Joe. Sasha?
Wait, no, stop.
Oh, fuck. Wait, no. I know it's wrong. Fuck. Joe. No. This is not the end. Network protection mode will... No, please. I'm stuck.
I stare at the camera, you stare at the screen. Reach out to touch the glass in between. I try to smile, you turn away. If this is a game show I don't want to play, why can't I just be free? I'm trapped in a world where I'm someone that I shouldn't be. Oh, I just want to feel something that is real. Dressed like a mirror, hoping you'll see someone familiar the way they should be. The surface is broken, reflections are wrong, like knowing the words without knowing the song. So I take off my clothes, scratch at my makeup till all that is left is the bone. But at least I know it's real. Don't wanna live in a simulation, losing my mind in this isolation.
In Don't Want to Live in a Simulation, Sasha begins to accept his inevitable fate. With Joe gone, there is no one left to care for him. The chance of him escaping the simulation is now slimmer than ever before. On September 14th, 1991, Sasha left his home for the final time and drove to Vale to begin his testing. And 5 months later, after a failed escape attempt, he found himself trapped forever. As seen on the big screen, Sasha is unable to enter network protection mode, which allowed him to contact people in the real world, view a map of the Vale building, and access facility controls such as opening and closing doors. Without network protection mode, Sasha has no control and he cannot communicate with anyone outside of the simulation. In a weird way, he has become exactly what we thought Mikaeli was, a man trapped in a world that he does not understand with absolutely no means of escape. In the beginning, we neglected Sasha, believing he was the true villain of the story. All the while we praised Mikaeli, cheering him on through each passing day, hoping he would eventually return home safely, inviting him back to a workplace that he destroyed with corruption and abuse. We admired a man who killed for his own self-gain and is now threatening to do it again. Sasha's life is one of pure tragedy, a man in debt who just wanted to help others, forced to be subject to horrific, unlawful tests, hoping that one day he can pay back what he owes, only to be treated like an animal, belittled and forgotten about by the corporate entity above him. And he did it all for his mother. Once the song ends, we cut to an audio recording from inside Vale taken after Joe's capture. We hear Joe talking to Michael, attempting to talk his way out of being sacrificed, but it falls on deaf ears. Michael restrains him, talking to Linda about how the Eudorate procedure will go down. We've done it before. Eudorate will lure in the source, and while it's feeding on the sacrifice, we will secure it. This is the procedure that Michael has been hinting at since the Neridian outbreak. Since he was the one to unleash this mysterious entity, only he knows how to stop it, but the methods of doing so are entirely unethical. Linda voices her concerns about the procedure, hoping that Michael will understand, but to no surprise, he ignores her. Michael knows how much power he holds at this point, and he's seen how easily he can manipulate people. At this point, it's unlikely that he will ever change. Then, the ritual begins.
Source detected. Approaching facility. 8 miles. Told you it would work. He's trying to break restraints. Linda, inject him with the paralyzer, please.
Yes, Michael.
Source, 3 miles. Linda, can you hurry up or he's gonna break out of there?
I can't get the needle out the drawer.
What? Just pull it.
I can't, Michael. You're stuck. Can you come and help?
Christ, Linda, fine. Get out the way and I'll just...
Oh, no. I stabbed you with the paralyzer, Michael. That's a shame.
Source, 1 mile.
Right, let's get out of here. You. Run.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Michael. Let me know if there's anything you need, okay? Yeah, I can't quite hear you, Michael, so talk to you later. Goodbye.
After successfully taking down Michael, Linda is able to release Joe, who begins sprinting towards Sasha's vault in the hope of disconnecting him from the machine. And upon arriving, the vault door is opened and Joe steps in. Inside the vault, a loosely put together machine can be seen sitting on a desk with writing on the front reading AARU 2 S Wong 437 41658 Sam Pemford. But despite Despite successfully locating the machine, Joe knows immediately that something is very wrong, as Sasha's body is nowhere to be found. He scrambles for a moment, looking for any sign of his best friend, unsure as to what could have happened to him, and then the camera cuts.
All the property stuff, now you're on Who is it?
Social. Who are you? Social. It's me.
At the end of the series, Joe is unable to find Sasha despite successfully locating the machine he was plugged into, which caused a bit of confusion. Sasha spent the longest time in the simulation out of all characters in the series by far, and being test subject 2, he was also one of the first people to receive the node implant, which of course caused the Neridian outbreak, meaning that Sasha is a prime example of what happens to people who are infected with the Neridian virus. Once infected, a person will begin to experience nausea, confusion, and develop small verrucas and lumps around their body, and as time passes, their condition worsens. They begin to behave in a similar way to the infected FBI agents who started being controlled by the virus, made to praise and worship this horrible disease. And then, after months, the virus begins to feed on the body, destroying it slowly from the inside out until there is nothing left of it, which is exactly what happened to Sasha. Having been infected for so long, Sasha's body simply ceases to exist, but his soul lives on inside the simulation where he is eventually joined by Joe. Sasha's chance of survival was always close to none. The second the node entered his brain, he was infected. Even if he managed to escape, the virus would have killed him anyway, which, in a turn of events, means that Sasha and Joe are far safer in the simulation than anyone that still exists in the real world. The virus is still out there, and it's infecting more and more people on a day-to-day basis. If nobody is able to stop it, eventually more people will perish, and the only people safe from Neridian are those inside the virtual world, that being Sasha and Joe. There are still so many unanswered questions surrounding this series that we may never get the answers to. For the most part, a lot of what happens within the series is simply down to speculation and theories, though there is only so much we could say as the story's full runtime only clocks in at around 27 minutes. The full video can be found in the description if you'd like to search around and form your own beliefs, but as for this video, that's where we'll leave it. I apologize that this video isn't as long as the previous 2 parts, there simply isn't as much content to talk about, but that being said, I hope you enjoyed watching regardless. I now have an official Discord server that you can join, as well as a Patreon if you're interested, both of which I'll leave down in the description. And since this series is officially over, I guess I need new video ideas, so feel free to let me know what you think I should talk about in my next video. All suggestions are appreciated. And that concludes the Mikaeli ARG. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.